If you're the smartest person in your circle, it's time to find a new circle. There's something powerful that happens when you make a decision. Not just a wish, not just a hope, but a real decision to change your life. And that change doesn't start with what's around you. It starts with who is around you. You see, energy is contagious. You hang around people who complain. You start finding reasons to complain. You surround yourself with people who dream, who strive, who push, who climb. You begin to rise. Listen to me. You don't grow in comfort. You grow in challenge. You grow in environments where excellence is the standard. You grow when you're surrounded by people who expect more of you than you even expect of yourself. The people you allow in your life will either fuel your fire or drown your flame. So today, I challenge you. Audit your circle. Look around. Who's speaking into your future? Who's calling out your potential? Who refuses to let you settle? Because your destiny is too great, your purpose is too powerful, your time is too precious to be spending it with people who don't see your value. You need people who inspire you, who challenge you, who hold you accountable. People who remind you of your greatness when you forget it yourself. So surround yourself with dreamers. Surround yourself with doers, with builders, with believers, with people who see beyond your now and speak to your next. Because when you're surrounded by greatness, you can't help but become great too. Your environment is not just where you live. It's who you talk to, what you listen to, and what you expose your mind to daily. Every conversation you have, every piece of advice you accept, every opinion you hear, they all leave fingerprints on your thinking. And your thinking, that shapes your actions, that shapes your future. If you plant a seed in the right soil, give it sunlight and water, it grows. But plant that same seed in dry, toxic ground, and it won't survive. You are no different. You need the right conditions to flourish. If you're constantly surrounded by people who play small, who are always in survival mode, who fear change and reject growth, you'll begin to shrink your own vision just to fit in. You'll start believing that your big ideas are too much, that your dreams are unrealistic, that your passion is unnecessary. That's not growth. That's mental starvation. Because when your environment doesn't challenge you to grow, it slowly convinces you to stay the same. And staying the same in a world that's always evolving, that's a quiet form of failure. But the right environment pulls greatness out of you. It stretches you. It places a mirror in front of you and says, "You've got more in you." When you're around people who strive for more, who talk possibilities instead of problems, who celebrate growth instead of fearing it, you start expanding your thinking. Your vision sharpens. Your discipline strengthens. Your belief system upgrades. And in that space, in that atmosphere, something inside you wakes up and refuses to sleep again. The truth is, your environment is either a greenhouse for growth or a prison for your potential. It's either lifting you higher or quietly dragging you back to the level you swore you'd never return to. And the scariest part, most people don't even realize the damage being done. Because mediocrity doesn't yell, it whispers. It tells you to take it easy. It says you've done enough. It convinces you that average is acceptable. But greatness is born when you step into a space where growth is not just encouraged, it's expected. Energy is not invisible, it's transferable. You feel it when someone walks into the room. You sense it in their tone, their posture, their attitude. Whether it's positive or negative, intentional or unconscious, their energy speaks before they even say a word. And the truth is, if you stay in that space long enough, you start absorbing it. That's why who you allow around you is not just a preference. It's a decision that impacts your mental, emotional, and spiritual health. You can't expect to think big while swimming in a sea of small thinkers. The vibe you're around becomes the voice in your head. Think about it. Ever been in a room with someone who complains constantly? It doesn't take long before you start finding things to complain about too. You feel your shoulders slouch. Your enthusiasm starts to fade. Why? Because negativity is contagious. It spreads silently. It disguises itself as realism, as common sense, as just being careful. But what it's really doing is lowering your frequency. It convinces you to play it safe. It drains your passion. And worst of all, it tricks you into believing that kind of life is normal. But flip that. Walk into a space filled with people who are on fire for their purpose. People who speak with conviction. People who are driven, focused, and grounded. And suddenly, your back straightens. Your thinking lifts. You start to believe again. You start to feel possible again. That's what positive energy does. It doesn't just motivate you. It activates you. It reminds you that you're not crazy for dreaming big. It affirms your goals. It sharpens your focus. And it challenges your excuses. That kind of energy, that's the atmosphere of elevation. You have to protect your energy like your life depends on it, because it does. If you surround yourself with people who are constantly drained, distracted, or defeated, eventually you'll find yourself running on empty too. But when you surround yourself with people who operate at a higher level, not just in results, but in mindset, in spirit, in integrity, you begin to vibrate higher yourself. You start seeing life not just as it is, but as it could be. And that shift that new energy. It becomes the fuel that powers your transformation. Growth is not pretty. It's not polite. It doesn't come wrapped in comfort and ease. Growth shows up when life stretches you, when it pushes you, pressures you, and puts you in places you didn't ask to be. And in those moments, you have a choice: retreat back into the familiar, or step forward into the unknown. Discomfort is not punishment. It's a signal, a sign that you're leaving the territory of average and entering the arena of elevation. If it's uncomfortable, it means you're getting closer to the edge of who you used to be and preparing to become who you were meant to be. The reason most people stay stuck isn't because they lack talent. It's not because they don't have dreams. It's because the process of becoming requires sacrifice. And sacrifice doesn't feel good. It requires discipline when you're tired. It demands effort when no one's watching. It forces you to break old habits, walk away from old circles, and unlearn everything that kept you small. That's painful. But hear this: pain is not your enemy. It's your passage. It's your personal trainer, developing the strength your destiny will require. You don't build muscle in ease. You build it under resistance. People talk about wanting more. More success, more peace, more fulfillment. But few are willing to go through the fire it takes to get there. Growth requires that you shed the skin of who you were. It's uncomfortable because it's unfamiliar. Your comfort zone is a liar. It promises safety, but delivers stagnation. And anything that doesn't challenge you will never change you. You can't grow into greatness while clinging to comfort. You've got to lean into the stretch. You've got to say yes to the climb, even when it hurts, even when it's lonely, even when you feel like quitting. And don't expect applause. Don't wait for validation. Discomfort is a lonely road. It often shows up without company or confirmation. But that's exactly where transformation begins. When you do the hard thing, when you face the resistance head on, when you stop running from the stretch, you unlock levels of strength, focus, and faith you never knew you had. Growth doesn't ask for permission. It requires submission. And once you give yourself over to it, that discomfort will become the foundation of the life you were born to build. Take a look at the people closest to you. Not with judgment, but with honesty. Because the truth is, you don't rise above your circle. You rise with it, or you sink in it. Your circle is a mirror. It reflects back your standards, your beliefs, your energy, and your expectations. If the people around you settle, you start settling. If they avoid growth, you start making excuses. If their conversations are always about struggle and never about solutions, that becomes your language, too. You don't even realize you're shrinking because the people around you are comfortable being small. You want to know how high someone's aiming in life. Listen to what they tolerate. If everyone in your circle is okay with mediocrity, then going the extra mile starts to feel unnecessary. If everyone is coasting, your ambition will feel out of place. That's why it's dangerous to surround yourself with people who are content with just getting by. It normalizes average. It convinces you that excellence is excessive, that success is selfish, that wanting more is unreasonable. But that's not truth. That's just low standards wrapped in comfort. But when you elevate your circle, you elevate your standard. When you're around people who demand more of themselves, people who pursue excellence, who live with discipline, who hold themselves accountable, that energy rubs off on you. Their habits challenge your habits. Their language sharpens your mindset. Their focus forces you to realign your priorities. They don't just cheer for your goals. They push you to stay aligned with them. That kind of circle doesn't just celebrate you when you win. They check you when you drift. You see, people will either pull you toward your greatness or pacify your potential. They'll either remind you of your calling or keep you distracted with chaos. That's why your circle matters. Because who you surround yourself with is who you become. And if you're serious about transformation, you have to stop choosing people based on comfort and start choosing them based on alignment. You need people whose very presence makes you want to level up. People whose lives challenge you, stretch you, and sharpen you just by how they live. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do for your future is stop and take inventory. Not of your money, not of your goals, but of your relationships. Because the people you allow in your life are either assets or liabilities. They're either pouring into your purpose or draining your potential. And many people stay stuck not because they lack the vision, not because they lack the talent, but because they're too afraid to disconnect from the wrong people. Comfort, history, and guilt have become the chains that keep them tied to connections that no longer serve where they're going. You've got to ask yourself the hard questions. Who am I always carrying? Who constantly needs rescuing, but never shows up when I need support? Who listens only to respond, not to understand? Who makes me feel drained after every conversation? These are not just social habits. They are spiritual weight. Every phone call, every hangout, every message, it's either building you up or slowly breaking you down. If you're always being the strong one, the motivator, the listener, the rescuer, but never being poured into, you're going to run out of fuel. There are people who love the old version of you. The insecure, unsure, passive version. Because that version doesn't challenge them. But the moment you start growing, they feel threatened. The moment you set boundaries, they call you selfish. The moment you dream bigger, they call you unrealistic. And if you're not careful, you'll shrink yourself to keep relationships that should have ended seasons ago. Loyalty doesn't mean self-sacrifice. It means alignment. If you have to betray your own growth to keep someone comfortable, that relationship is costing you too much. You need to be bold enough to clean your emotional house. That doesn't mean you stop loving people. It means you stop letting access replace alignment. Just because someone has been in your life a long time doesn't mean they still belong in your future. Growth requires pruning. Success requires structure. Peace requires protection. And you owe it to your purpose to build relationships that water your vision, not poison it. Stop settling for proximity when what you really need is partnership. Greatness is not just about talent. It's about exposure. When you get around people who operate at a higher level, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, financially, something inside you begins to shift. You start to realize that the limits you've been living with were never truth. They were just reflections of what you were surrounded by. When you witness excellence in motion, up close and personal, it redefines what you believe is possible for yourself. You stop saying, maybe one day, and start saying, why not me? There's a power in proximity. When you're close to someone who carries greatness, you begin to catch it. Their mindset rubs off on you. Their discipline convicts you. Their passion lights something inside of you. You begin to think bigger, act bolder, speak with more conviction. That's why being in the right room is more valuable than reading the right book. It's not just information. It's transformation through observation. When you see how greatness moves, how it thinks, how it speaks, you begin to adopt the patterns, the pace, and the posture. But here's the truth. Getting around greatness might make you uncomfortable at first, because it exposes the gaps. It shows you how much more you could be doing. And that discomfort, that's not something to run from. That's your next level calling you up. Greatness challenges your excuses. It doesn't let you settle. It doesn't entertain pity parties. It forces you to either level up or step out. That's why some people avoid it. Because they'd rather stay comfortable than be confronted. But if you're serious about growing, you won't run from greatness. You'll run toward it. You need people in your life whose very presence is a standard. People who don't have to preach. Their life does the talking. People who don't tolerate laziness, don't celebrate mediocrity, and don't apologize for aiming high. Because when you're surrounded by that kind of energy, you begin to elevate by default. You start making different choices. You set stronger boundaries. You demand more from yourself. That's the power of proximity. It doesn't just inspire you, it transforms you. Not by force, but by frequency. So the question is not whether you're capable. You are. The question is not whether the dream is possible. It is. The real question is, who are you walking with? Who's in your corner? Who's in your ear? Because the truth is, no matter how gifted you are, you cannot outgrow a toxic environment. You cannot outrun the influence of the wrong crowd. And you cannot rise to the top if you're constantly being pulled back by people who don't believe in going higher. If you want to change your life, change your surroundings. Seek out those who challenge you to think bigger, who make you uncomfortable. Not because they criticize you, but because they won't let you settle. Connect with the focused, the faithful, the fearless, because iron sharpens iron, and your destiny demands you be sharp, not dull. You weren't born to live an average life. You were born to make an impact, to be a light, to leave a mark. So raise your standards. Audit your circle. Walk away from the familiar if it's keeping you stuck, and surround yourself with people who remind you every single day of who you truly are and what you're truly capable of, because greatness is already in you. All you need to do now is get in the right room.